So, playing with so many guys, he's the guy who has led the charge in terms of super teams being put together. Yeah. When he put together a team in Miami, basically put together a team together in Cleveland as well, and put together a team in Los Angeles or whatever.
So just recently, we heard Dr. J make a controversial statement saying that he would leave LeBron James, arguably the best player in NBA history, off of his all-time NBA list. And the reason why he left him off was because he believes that LeBron started super teams. And personally, I disagree with what he said. So that has caused me to make this video where I will be discussing why LeBron James did not start super teams. Before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video to help my channel grow, subscribe to my channel if you want weekly NBA content, and to reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers, and comment on this video to start a conversation with me, as I do respond to all comments. And play that intro. The first and main reason LeBron James did not start super teams is the fact that the supposed super team LeBron created in Miami was far from the first super team in NBA history. Super teams can date back far back to the Bill Russell era, where Bill Russell played with guys like Bob Cousy, Tom Heinsohn, Casey Jones, Tom Sanders, and plenty of others. But even if you wanted to argue that Bill didn't make it popular, then I'll bring up another example. The next example is that it's kind of ironic that Julius Erving was on one of the earlier super teams in the league. As the 1982 to the 1986 season, the 76ers were a super team. They were one of the more underrated super team because this was a team with Julius Erving, who was a top 5 to 10 player in the league at the time. They also had Moses Malone, who was a top 5 to 10 player at the time, and alongside him they had Maurice Cheeks, one of the better defensive point guards in the league and a 4-time All-Star in his career, and he was in his prime at that point. And they had Andrew Toney, who was a 2-time All-Star in his career, and in his season with the Sixers he was an 18 to 20 points per game scorer. I don't know about you, but to me, a team with 2 superstars, another All-Star who was great, and another 20 points per game scorer, as well as solid supporting pieces, I don't know how that's not a super team. And don't let me forget to mention that they added Charles Barkley to their roster, and although he was a rookie, he was still a pretty good damn rookie. If you want more examples, I got them for you. Let's talk about the 1980s Lakers, who had Magic Johnson, who was a top 5 player in the league, and during the 80s he was probably and arguably the best player in the whole 10-year span. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was also a top 5 to 10 player at that time, even in his old age, and they had James Worthy, one of the best small forwards in the NBA history, and he was a top 15 player. And on top of that, they had great supporting players like Michael Cooper, Kurt Rambis, Bob McAdoo, and Jamal Wicks. This was definitely a super team, and there's not a single argument you could make for it not being one. You might think that I'm done, but there's still a few more super teams to discuss. Let's talk about Michael Jordan's 1990s Bulls. I won't lie, for the first part of his three-peat, that wasn't a super team because it was only him, Scottie Pippen as all-stars. But in Jordan's second three-peat with Dennis Rodman, that definitely was a super team because you had arguably the best player in the league, who was MJ, and it wasn't really close. Then you had Scottie Pippen, a top 7 player in the league and the best defender in the entire league. And you had Dennis Rodman, one of the best rebounders in the NBA and probably a top 10 defender in the league at that point. And let me not forget to mention amazing role players like Luke Longley, Tony Kukoc, Steve Kerr, Ron Harper, and others. Those Bulls teams are arguably considered the best team in NBA history, so there's no way that's not a super team. The next super team I want to discuss is the 2008 Boston Celtics, who had a big three of Kevin Garnett, who was a top 5 player in the league, Paul Pierce, who was a top 10 player in the league, and Ray Allen, who was a top 20 player in the league, along with solid supporting role players, guys like Jean Rondo, Kendrick Perkins, James Posey, Tony Allen, and Eddie House. This was definitely a super team before LeBron. So right there, I just named 5 super teams before LeBron, and I named 3 undisputed super teams. So it's kind of clear that Dr. J either didn't do his research on the game, or he's just mad that LeBron is better than he ever was. We also have to take in the fact that even though LeBron made a super team in Miami, it wasn't unjustified, because you have to realize that the Cavaliers were a disgustingly dysfunctional franchise that could not surround them with any solid help. It wasn't like Kevin Durant's move, where Kevin Durant still had a championship contender around him. LeBron was literally playing with bums, so him moving to Miami was because he barely had any help. If he never went to Miami, he would have just been another great player who couldn't win a championship. Whether or not it's fair. I think looking back at it, everybody realizes that LeBron was right to leave the Cavs and go to the Heat, and I mainly notice the people who still hold a grudge about it are LeBron haters. So Dr. J's statement makes it clear that he's hating on LeBron instead of saying actual facts, and it's truly disgusting to see, since LeBron is a player who has always gave respect to the pioneers of the game, yet it seems often as if they don't give the same respect back. So I hope people don't actually hold very much weight to what he said, because it's clear he's been watching too much Skip Bayless. We also have to question whether or not LeBron has actually been on a super team, because even though Miami had LeBron and Wade, two top 5 players in the league, Bosh was not a top 20 player in the league at the time. But if I'm being honest, I still think that was a super team. I'll admit it, but let's not act like Miami was some crazy super team that was unfair and unbeatable. They did lose in the finals 2 times. But the LeBron Cleveland teams were definitely not a super team, because LeBron was the best player, Kyrie Irving was a top 15 player, but in my opinion, back then you could have argued that Kevin Love was not even a top 25 player in the league due to his defense and how he played in the postseason, which was terrible. So if I'm being honest, I don't consider those Cleveland teams super teams, and if you think the team he's on currently, the Lakers, are a super team, you're simply wrong. This Laker team does have another top 5 player in the league in Anthony Davis, and they do have great depth, but I don't think that makes them a super team. To conclude the video, all Dr. J proved was that he is salty and knows very little about basketball. He proved no point besides the fact that he looks stupid. He sounded like a hypocrite since he had arguably created the first ever super team, and to me it just sounded like a salty NBA legend that LeBron will always and is way better than he ever was. Anyways guys, that's it for the video. Let me know if you agree or disagree with what I said in this video. Drop a like on this video to help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want weekly NBA content and to reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers. And comment on this video, start a conversation with me, as I do respond to all comments. And I'm out.